We'll call to order the Board of Zoning Appeals. If you'll please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag
for which it stands.
Please remain standing for a moment of silence. Thank you. Call a roll, please.
Mike Curtis.
Here.
Amber Brown.
Here.
Jerry Sartain.
Here.
Gary Farley.
Here.
Renee Curtis.
Here.
Patrick Hale. Zane Cantrell.
Present.
We have a quorum.
You have the minutes of our last meeting. Are there any changes or corrections to the minutes?
They look good, Mr. Chairman. If no one objects, I move that we approve them.
Have a motion to be approved. We have a second. Call a roll, please.
Mike Curtis.
Yes.
Amber Brown.
Yes.
Jerry Sartain.
Yes.
Gary Farley.
Yes.
Renee Curtis.
Yes.
Patrick Hale. Zane Cantrell.
Yes. Let me welcome all of you here. We'll get to our agenda just as soon as possible. I'd like to recognize our new member, Patrick Hale. Patrick, if you would stand. So it's good to have you with us, and I suspect you'll learn a lot, especially tonight. Thank you for your willingness to serve. The first item of business is a request by Tyler King, who is asking for variance relief, and this is for a front yard setback. What do you have on that, please?
Thank you. Application 2023-21 involves the property located at 2297 Alisona Road. It's a request for variance relief of 3.6 feet from the front yard setback of 40 feet for a structure located within the RL low-density residential zoning district. And so this is the site in question. It's 62.46 acres. It's a large site that's located at the end of a common drive. And they are seeking variance approval for this structure here that was previously permitted in 2021 for a single-family residential home, and construction commenced in December. The pad of the building, when they were going out and locating the future location of the site, the structure, they used the pins that were located along an existing fence. So this is the fence in question. And you'll see these lines, and I just want to preface my presentation with this. These lines are from obliques, so they're not necessarily accurate, so they don't mean anything, the blue property lines, but this fence here is the fence that the pins were located on. So the applicant, in an abundance of caution, placed the structure 45 feet from those pins. And during construction, there were some issues with the concrete contractor. They pivoted the house. It was no longer parallel to the fence line, and it resulted in an encroachment. Now, in August of 2022, we were alerted to this encroachment. It was brought to our attention, and when building codes went out and inspected the site, and Tanya, correct me if I'm wrong, they met with the property owner and he showed them the location and it looked compliant, but they advised the applicant to obtain a survey just to verify that the 40-foot setback was being met. And so Mr. King obtained a couple surveys, and ultimately it was decided that it was revealed that it was 3.6 feet into the 40-foot setback. Now, the applicant indicates that the site has a great change in topography. The contours vary from 878 feet to 1,176 feet in height, and that they chose this area as the location of the home because of it being the most level portion of the site. So staff reviewed the request based on the criteria, and the applicant is here to explain further the steps that went down that resulted in this request, and then the building department is also here. But we found that the request met the criteria for variance approval, and as it wasn't self-created. And this is the common drive. You could see this is a large acreage parcel, and it's part of a plat, and along this entire property boundary, there is a 40-foot setback that's applied to it, and you'll see it in the site plan. We had to rotate the picture, and then here's a close-up of the structure. The applicant has supplied us with more pictures, and I'm imagining he might want to go over those during his presentation, but we have received calls. There were a lot of concerns expressed with the use of the structure, and I'm sure you'll hear from that tonight. And I understand that several of you, if not all of you, have been contacted regarding those concerns. And that concludes our presentation.
Do we have any questions from our staff on this?
Did you say how many times that it had been surveyed and measured?
The surveys were, they were using the pins from the initial survey when the pins were located on the fence. And I believe the applicant probably can explain it better than I, but the pins, you know, you take the two pins and you do the straight line, but the fence happens to bow out. And so when they took those measurements from that portion of the fence that bowed out, it resulted in the encroachment. But he has had several surveys, and two of them revealed that it was encroaching into the 40-foot setback.
So he actually used the pins that had been there existing sometime back?
Yes, and I'm sure he can clarify that even better than I.
Okay. I'm just trying to figure out how that would not be self-inflicted in my mind.
Right. That's for you to decide. Yeah, so.
Could we hear from codes on what they know about this?
You can. So when we went out and did the initial inspection for the foundation, as Danielle mentioned, the flags from the original pin were on the fence, and that's what we used, as did he, as did his contractors, as the setback, and it met the 40 feet. It wasn't until last summer, August of ’22, when I believe a neighbor, the property right to the north of it changed hands, and they had a survey done, or somehow they were aware that that property line might not be on that fence, and they brought it to our attention. So we asked the homeowner to get another survey, but at this point the house was up, the structure was already up. So he got another survey which revealed that there was in fact an encroachment into the, he actually got 2 surveys. And he'll be able to better explain that to you when he comes out.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
We are not, I know that there's been a couple of concerns about the use, but we are not hearing the use of this building. This is just strictly the variance, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Now, the 3.6 inches is correct, right?
Yes, sir.
0.6 feet.
Or 3.6
feet.
feet.
Pardon?
Sorry.
0.6 feet.
Any other questions? Do we have anyone here representing this request? If you'll come around, please. Yeah. Come this way to the podium, okay? Give us your name and any additional information you want to share.
My name is Tyler King. You have the other pictures. Let's go with that. Yeah, so I guess what we were explaining is, so if you take these 2 pictures, when we set out the stakes for the pad for the barn originally, we went and found the first picture is at the driveway and where the fence is, and the second pin is the existing pin kind of up the hill. We found those pins, saw that the fence was on the property line, or what we thought was the property line, and then we measured 45 feet off of the fence to set the stakes for concrete pad for the building. We didn't, I mean, measuring off the fence, even now, it measures 40 feet on one corner and like 46 or 48 on the other corner. So we didn't expect there to be an issue until someone filed a complaint. We had the surveyor come out, and it looks like there's a bow in the fence, luckily, right about where the barn is. And so the building is actually skewed. There's one corner, the uphill side is the corner furthest away is the 3.6 feet inside of the offset. And then the corner, in this picture, the one on the left, the corner furthest from you is actually, I think it's, like I said, like 48 feet out. So the building isn't even parallel now to the property line. It's kind of kicked around to the side. The corner that has the encroachment is where the power, you can see in these pictures where the main power comes in. I'm trying to think of what else. That's the max encroachment, and then towards the center of the building where those white double doors are, that's when it goes back, I guess based on the survey, where it goes back to 0. So it starts out 3.6 at most, and then tapers in to 0 where those double doors are.
We have some questions.
Yeah, all right. Here's where I'm at right now. I mean, when you are going to spend this much money and you try to measure it from old markers that have been there for a number of years, that's not doing due diligence to me, okay? All right. And how many acres is it total?
62 as a whole.
Okay, 62 acres as a whole. Yep. Of your property. My question would be, why would you want to build that close to the property line when you got 62 acres of land?
I don't think it's in with those. The reason it was there is because if you look down the center of the property, there's a ditch. The septic site was on the other side of it, and the hills go up on both sides. And what we were trying to do is set the building where, I don't think I have a picture of it, but what I call the front of the building, it looks basically down the valley. So you get kind of the best views of everything from where it is.
But could it have been done more over into the other 60 part of the 62 acres?
I thought it would be difficult because of the topography and because of, can you bring up the aerial?
The aerial, okay.
Let's try that.
Yeah, I did not include a contour map.
It may be at the end. There's actually a contour map at the very end of my pictures.
I did not add it, but I do
dang.
have a copy of it here.
Can I ask a question while she's looking at
go
that?
ahead.
Okay. I keep on hearing you say building. Is it a house or is it a barn?
It's I don't call it a house. I mean, I think,
Is it meant for people to live in?
yeah, we have, basically
That's a home.
Basically the way we have it set up is it would be a 2-bedroom house.
Well, what's the big mystery?
I just because of the way it looks, I've always called it a barn just because of the way it looks. So going to what you were asking, so the back, there's probably 15 acres of cleared that you can see kind of in the center. So with it basically V's down. The whole property V's down.
And I'll tell you why I'm asking the questions. I've been transparent as I can be. I can't get around or get out of my head why it's not self-inflicted. That's where I'm at. I'm wondering, because it appears to me by not doing due diligence and you having that much acreage, this is not self-inflicted. It's kind of where I'm at right now, and that's why I'm asking the questions that I'm asking. So thank you, I appreciate it.
I can see it. Those pins that you were talking about were surveyed in 2016, and then they were verified, I guess, by the 2 surveys after the complaint was filed. And so we didn't anticipate there being any issues, but.
And I know, but if I'm gonna spend, and I don't know how much you spent, it looks like it's quite a bit. But if I'm gonna spend that kind of money, I'm gonna do my due diligence as a homeowner or a business person to go make sure that it's right, because it's 3.6 feet difference. That's a lot. I could, 3.6 inches.
It surprised me.
So, thank you, I appreciate it.
King, you're in the process of building this still, right? You say that corner is the one that's causing you the problem. Couldn't you move that corner?
I mean, if that's what you guys decide, that's what we'll do. I mean, I know it's what we'll have to do. The way the building is built, it's a hybrid timber frame building, and so the 3.6 foot corner, there's 12 feet there, which that would be the easiest, just to offset it, say 4 feet, bring it in if we had to. The main issue comes once you get past that first 12-foot section. The center section is a 20-foot section with beams and a span. I'm not sure, because I think at that point it's probably, doing the math, probably 1.5 feet in still. I don't know how structurally you would set that up.
Amber?
Yeah, mine's quick. All right, will you be residing in this home? I don't know if you're the builder or if you
We
are
own
the
the
person.
property.
Okay, so but will you be residing in this?
Probably
Because I
not
keep hearing
now.
building, I hear home, and I just need that point of clarity, please.
One of the things, like, we wanted that building there so that we had the views, we could use it if we want to, that kind of thing. If you look around the back corner of the property, that's where we had planned if we were staying to build a house.
So this will not be your primary residence? Okay, thank you.
So you're going to have 2 homes on the same piece of property?
Well, the idea would be to down convert that back to basically to a barn.
Okay, Renee, sorry.
So, hi, thank you for coming. So the foundation was poured August of 2021. Then there was it says there was a notified the building codes of August of 22. We're now at August of 23. Why did you keep building when you had already, there was a complaint on it? Why didn't you just say, whoa, let me fix this?
Because,
instead of pivoting and proceeding?
And I was, when the codes lady came out to look at everything, at that point, we measured and we looked at the pins, and I felt like, and if I'm incorrect, let me know, I thought at that point we were good, and the survey was just a secondary, hey, just basically something to have as a double check. And so we didn't anticipate there being any issues, and I still, and that's why, like, when this came up again, we had 2 surveyors come out, because I was still surprised after the first one came out that it was knowing where the pins were, looking at the fence, being on the line, and it didn't make sense.
So what was the time frame? The timeline is when you went out there, when the codes went out there?
Yeah, when we went out there, when we got that first complaint in August, and one of the... 22. The inspector went out there, they verified it with the owner. The flags, the pins were still there on the fence. They verified the 40 and the 48 feet, and he proceeded. It wasn't till he got the... we advised that he go ahead and get a survey just to be safe. And when that survey came back, it's my understanding that construction kind of stopped then. He hasn't done anything since then. And we've
So
been trying.
you haven't worked on it since August of 22?
We've done very little. I mean, the structure is there. I mean, that was it.
The survey came later.
Yeah.
On August 22, when we went out there, everybody was under the impression that the setback was okay. And it wasn't until we advised that he should probably get a survey just to be safe. But it wasn't necessary. At that point, we thought the setback was fine.
Okay.
So he proceeded. And it wasn't until that survey was done that he realized that there might be an issue with setback, and that's when construction stopped. And I believe that was about 6 months ago, maybe 8 months ago. And it's kind of stopped since then, since he realized there was an encroachment.
Percentage-wise, how far along are you in the completion? Have you received a certificate of occupancy?
No, we have not. We're probably, I would say, 85% complete.
Okay, we've got a pretty good idea of what's going on out there. Thank you for the information you share. You may be seated. We'll open this for a public hearing and see what the neighbors out there have to say.
Tanya,
Public hearing.
Have all permits been pulled in a timely basis for this project?
Say that one more time.
all permits and things that were pulled timely for this project?
Yes. And can I just add, when the first survey came back and it was different from the flags on the fence, it was only then that he decided to get yet another survey, because now we had two conflicting property lines or two conflicting survey results. So then he got a third survey to confirm one or the other.
If you'll go to the podium, give us your name and any information you want to share.
My name's Alex Katuzian. My mother, Nushima Basher, has the property, which is right along the fence line. She's sitting here. I guess, where should I start?
Go ahead.
I have a lot of questions. First, having to do with the surveys, the same company came out 3 times, and all 3 times they got different results on their surveys. So we don't know which survey is correct, why there's so many discrepancies between the 3 surveys. We haven't been given a straight answer as to why that's happening. And when Mr. King says that his property is sloped like a V, if you look at the topography report, that's actually not accurate. There's plenty of room where he could have built this. Let me back up for a second. My mom purchased the property in September of 2022. So the complaint was filed by the previous owner without our knowledge. It never came up during the purchase process. And we found out after the fact that he was planning to do an Airbnb with a yurt, or he was doing an Airbnb with a yurt that he had on the property. And he was building this structure with the intention of doing an Airbnb after construction was completed. So when he says that he's not sure if he was planning on residing in that house after construction was completed, that's a little bit misleading, because he knows exactly what he was planning on doing, but with the property once it was completed. So, I think we have multiple concerns. One of the main ones is where are the property lines? When I came into to the planning office, I sat down with Mrs. Bell, and she was very helpful. She showed me the aerial photos of the property, and I know that the lines there aren't necessarily accurate, but the discrepancy from the beginning of the easement all the way to the back of the property was so glaring that it raised a lot of questions in my mind, and we're just hoping to get some answers from this hearing, and hopefully whatever you guys decide to rule, we'll go along with.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Public hearing. Come forward. We'll close the public hearing.
I have a question for staff. What happens if we deny this variance?
Well, he has options. He could approach the neighboring property owner and replat the property. It was recently platted and prior to his purchase, but he could acquire some additional land from the neighboring property where the encroachment's taken place, or he could modify the structure to come into compliance with the zoning ordinance.
From time to time, it's not unusual for us to give a variance for a small amount of overlap like this. The other alternative that if we turn it down, he would have to move that corner back in order, but I suspect there's more to this than what we're hearing. Airbnb, there's no regulations on Airbnb. Regardless of what happens, he could still have an Airbnb. That's not what we're dealing with. Just that small amount of property. And, we've been down this road before. Do we ask somebody to go with the expense of completely moving what they're building? And I agree, they should have been more due diligence to this thing. But these things happen. They happen quite often.
Well, and you're right, Zane, but here's my problem with it. 3 inches. We've done them up here with 2 inches, 3 inches, but 3.6 feet? To me, that's more than, well, it is more than 3 inches, but what I'm saying is it's due diligence was not done, and to me, it's self-inflicted. That's where I'm at on it, and I can't get past it. That's why I asked him the questions, and nice man, but the thing is, he didn't change my mind in his answers to me. And with that being said, I'm going to make a motion that we deny the request based on it because it's self-inflicted.
Say that again.
I'm going to make a motion that we deny the request based on it being self-inflicted.
Okay. We have a motion that it be denied. Do we have a second?
Second.
Got a second. Any further discussion? Call a roll, please.
Mike Curtis,
Yes.
Amber Brown,
Yes.
Jerry Sartain,
Yes.
Gary Farley,
Yes.
Renee Curtis, Patrick Hale, Zane Cantrell.
Yes. The next item of business is a request by Greg Myers, who is requesting a variance relief for side yard setback. And what do you have on that, please?
Thank you. Application 2023-22 involves the location at 1636 Neutrino Drive. It's a request for variance relief of 4 feet of the side setback for detached accessory structures of 5 foot on a property located in the RM zone. And this is the property in question, and the reason that they are coming before you for the variance is, if you look at the aerial, you'll see that the structure actually encroaches into the neighboring property. Also, if you look, the neighboring property's side yard encroaches into the required side yard. So they have been in the process of replatting this lot to come into compliance with a couple with one side yard for the principal structure on 1632, and then to include the shed that was erected between 2014 and 15 without a permit, render it completely on the applicant's property. Even with the lot line change, it still encroaches 4 feet into the 5 foot setback. So these are photos of the site in question, and I'm going to get to the plat because this kind of is the best example that you can use. There is no encroachments into a required easement. There is a drainage easement towards the back of the property, but this is the plat that was submitted. And so the plat has demonstrated that it meets all of our requirements with the exception of this encroachment.
Excuse me. Are we looking at the proposed new plat?
This is the proposed new plat, yes, sir. Yes. And so as one of our comments, the outstanding comments before we tell the surveyor to print the Mylar for signatures is you need to remedy the setback encroachment before we can sign the plat. And so he was given the option he could move the structure, but he opted to apply for a variance. And we did not receive any phone calls regarding this request. We found that the request meets most of the criteria, but should the board decide to approve this application, the applicant would need to obtain the proper permits for the structure. And that concludes our presentation.
Any questions of our staff on this?
Yeah, everything went kind of quick. Is that like a mini barn?
Yes.
Or is that a permanent foundation structure?
I believe it is on a slab, but it looks like one of those barns that you could buy at Home Depot already assembled. The applicant probably could explain to you how the structure is, whether it's on the ground or on the foundation. so.
Thank you.
Anyone here representing this request? If you'll come around, please. You'll give us your name and any additional information you want to share with us.
My name's Greg Myers, and I live at 1636 Neutrino Drive. And so it was around April of 2014, I was interested in purchasing the property, and I met with the owner of the property, Mr. Blaylock, and of course looked at the inside of the home, and then we walked the boundary of the property. He had recently installed a dog fence, and so there were some boundary markers up, and we walked it, and it looked like it was fit on the, or anyway, with the house and the driveway and everything was designed, it looked like it made sense on, with where the house was located. And so I did, after purchasing the property, I did ask the ARC committee with Travis Estates if I could put in a storage shed. So part of the process is to get a picture of the size of the storage shed, the location. It was flagged for about 6 weeks while we're going through the approval process. The shed was delivered somewhere around June of 2014. My neighbors, Angie and Paul Ward, are here that live right next door. We thought the whole time that the boundary between us followed my driveway back and went straight back to the back of our property. And it was about 2021, we were just talking, we said, look, we really don't know where that back pin is, and we never did find a pin, but there was a marker there at one time, but markers, it was in a drainage ditch and that flows. I have pictures of my shed, and then I have pictures at the end of my driveway, and I just took a string out to show it was about 10 feet off. The shed, we put about 10 feet off the property line, so when we put it in, we had no idea. Well, when the survey come back, my property actually goes over into his front yard, and then he has more of my backyard, and we just didn't know it. So we got together and said, look, I don't want your front yard, so we're going to trade some of the acreage, and then we also agreed to buy a little bit more of the backyard. But to do that with the survey, we had to go back my driveway and then to the corner of the shed and go back to the property line. So we did this with good intentions, trying to correct something that we didn't know. And then we found out that of course, the shed is encroachment. As far as the permit, I own that. I had no clue I needed a permit for it didn't have electricity. It is a storage shed. It is on blocks. It's landscaped around it. It's not on a slab.
Mr. Myers,
Yes.
the shed is the only problem?
Yes.
You can move that. That's not a problem to move. Why are you objecting to moving it?
Just because of what you see, it's already landscaped around us, between us, and that would be...
Well, you can re-landscape it. Just move that thing over. I mean, sheds are easy to move. You had it moved in there, they pick them up and move them right over. Could do that. Any questions? Sorry.
Yeah,
From the look of the layout with the driveway and those things, that was before he was even there.
That is correct.
So this was missed a long time ago.
Yes.
I don't know when these houses were built.
around 2008.
Okay. Yeah, the way this is laid out didn't have anything to do with him.
Right.
Yeah, what triggered to find this out?
Well, a couple things. I think at one time they were thinking about, I think at one time they were talking about moving, and we, at the back of the property, we weren't 100% sure, where it was at, so we just thought it was a prudent thing to do.
So when they thought about moving, y'all went ahead and had a survey done?
Right.
Okay.
I don't know that I would want my shed on somebody else's property. I mean, for the long term. Would you?
It's on my property. It's on my property. I don't want it on my neighbor's property. That's the reason we had it resurveyed.
It will be on his property once the survey is, the Mylar is recorded, the plat is recorded. Currently, it encroaches beyond the property line.
So what's the timeline for that?
They're at the very end of the plat review process. This is the last thing they need to tie up before they print the Mylar for signatures.
There's no chance that that's not going to get approved or something?
Well, we will not be able to sign the plat as it currently looks if you deny the variance. We
Okay.
require all existing structures to be shown on plats, and you see the shed is placed within the setback. So that has to be remedied before we can sign off on the plat.
Thank you.
Can it wait for the, and if it's going to be replatted, can it not wait to, Danielle, that fixes it?
We did replat it. And what you see is what between the two of us, we got together and we said, okay, how can we fix this? I don't want your front yard. We got to fix this between us. And so we had it surveyed, and we were submitting it for, I guess, final approval to be recorded.
Okay, so this line right here, can you see the cursor? This is the old property line right here. That's going to be abandoned, and a new property line will be established upon the recording of the plat. So you can see that the structure encroaches beyond his property line now. But once the plat is recorded, the entire structure will be on his property, but still be within a foot off of the side property line.
But it seems like to me that the two neighbors are working to fix it themselves.
They are. However, even the fix still requires the variance.
Oh, okay. All right, I'm with you now.
My driveway right now is over on my neighbor's property.
Yeah.
We were just trying to correct it.
You know, if you another problem with this, if you're going to sell or get a loan on it, and you're encroaching on other property, it's hard to get a loan for
Yeah.
that if you're selling.
But I think, Zane, where I'm at with it is, they're doing their due diligence of going with neighbor to neighbor to try to fix it, but they went as far as they possibly can. But there's still a foot difference. I see that a little bit different than the previous one, because they are trying to work this out themselves. And it actually happened in, 2008, someone said? So
All right, let's, Mr. Mears, thank you. You be seated. We'll open this for a public hearing for anyone would like to speak on it. Public hearing. Close the public hearing. No, I'm sorry. Come on. Give us your name and any information you want.
Okay, yes, I am Angie Hundley Ward, and I am at 1632 Neutrino Drive, the current homeowner. So yeah, we have no issue with this. Like you say, we were just trying to fix and obviously do this with as minimal exchange of land as possible as well. But as you can tell, they turned our homes to face the road, which clearly makes sense, which our lot just ends up being very awkward.
Just to clarify, you are the next door neighbor?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, original homeowner.
Any other questions? Thank you. Please. Anyone else? Still a public hearing. Anyone else? Close the public hearing. Entertain a motion on it.
Move for approval. No staff comments.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Okay, call the roll, please.
Mike Curtis,
No.
Amber Brown,
Yes.
Jerry Sartain,
Yes.
Gary Farley,
yes.
Renee Curtis,
Yes.
Patrick Hale. Zane Cantrell.
Yes. The next item we have is a home built by Towe, and they're requesting a variance, 3.5 foot on the front yard setback. What do you have on that, please?
Thank you. Application BZA 2023-23, located at 3015 Stonehorn Drive, is a request for variance relief of 3.5 feet of the front yard setback requirement for a 35-foot setback for a structure located within a planned unit development. So this is a new development. They went through the zoning process for planned unit development, which allowed them to establish a front yard setback requirement of 35 feet. And so the homes in this development are under construction, and throughout the construction process, it was discovered that the front yard measurements were taken from the back of the curb as opposed to the front property line. And there were actually 2 lots affected, and the applicant was notified. This adjacent property had an encroachment, but he was able to modify the house to come into compliance with the front yard setback. He has modified the structure in question in a manner that I guess is logical. However, it still encroaches, just a portion of it encroaches into that front yard setback. It also encroaches into the CUD step easement. However, they've been working with the builder, and they are okay with the location of the structure. He still meets certain distances from the septic tank. Tanya, did you want to add anything on this?
We're on a roll tonight with the variances, aren't we? So this one, Danielle is correct in that the measurements were taken from the back of the curb. The original encroachment into the front setback was 9 feet. The builder, when we realized what had happened, the porch was already up. The builder has removed that entire area that I highlighted in red. That was the front concrete porch. That will be removed. It still, however, leaves a sliver that starts at about 2.5 feet and then narrows to 0 at the front door for the front wall of the home. And also the CUD easement is, the CUD tank, the step tank has been turned sideways. So the easement is reduced in that area by about 5 feet. So nothing encroaches into the CUD easement.
All right, question, and you may not be able to answer this. Who's at fault here? Is it the surveyor that's not somehow?
So this was the very first house on this road.
Okay.
Everything was raw dirt. There was nothing to go by. Everybody took the measurement from the back of the curb.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions?
Mine's really, really quick. Did I hear at the front of the presentation that there's 2 homes affected, or just this home?
Well, this is the only home that encroaches. Once the applicant was notified of the encroachment of both homes, he actually removed the portion of the neighboring home to come into compliance. So there's no issue with that. But this particular home couldn't be modified in the same manner.
Thank you.
So let's get the builder. Do we have someone here representing this? If you'll come around, please.
The pictures we have are of dirt.
There's streets right there, so you can see a pronounced curb.
Okay, yeah, just give us your name and any additional.
I'm William Towe, president and builder, Homes Built by Towe. Some people know me as Duke. The houses in question, I did the lot 26. These were the first 2 houses on that side of the street. And Huddleston Steel, as far as due diligence, I had them do all that. All the pins were there. I was using a new subcontractor that does slabs. He does all the Justin Harney slabs. So, I mean, he had a good reference. We had some delays with CUD, even after the drawings were turned in, just small delays. They wanted, even though the sidewalk was on the plot plan, They wanted the word sidewalk written on it. Well, it took us 2 more weeks to get that back, just to have the word written sidewalk on it. So I already had a vacation planned. That's neither here or there. It just fell that way. I was starting 3 houses. I'd purchased 4 houses, so I was a little loaded up that I was remodeling. I laid it out like this, and while we were waiting to get the other ones, you know, I was scheduled to go out of town. And I'll be dang if it wasn't the next day we got it from Jason. So I'd already went over all the setbacks with the sub. I showed him all the pins, front and back. And really and truly, I think his mistake on this one, I think Tanya was a little wrong. With that just a little bit of curvature, where is it? With just that little bit of curvature, this is the problem. And it's real small.
You have it on you.
It made the house pop. The right corner is just 2.5 feet. And I think what he done on the other house that I repaired, and I've already taken off that front porch. I'm waiting to hear what y'all say on the other one, it's lot 26. But on the lot 25, he didn't measure to the other curb. I think he measured to behind the curb, and he got it too close to it. And then he let the house where I've already fixed. Then he let the garage fall, which was longer. So I took off the front of that garage, and I moved everything back on that house. So I went to a big expense to fixing that. And this one here, you know, ultimately it's my fault. You know, but I was out of town. He had all the drawings, you know, several departments measured it, and I'm 85% done. These houses were sold.
Okay, we're sure where you are. Did you have a question over here? Questions? Thank you, sir. You may be seated. We'll open this for a public hearing for anyone who'd like to speak on this request. Close the public hearing.
I admitted it was wrong. You know, you got to commend somebody come up here and, hey, I made a mistake. I make a motion, we approve it.
Have a
I
motion
second.
be approved. We have a second. Call a roll, please.
Mike Curtis,
No.
Amber Brown,
Yes.
Jerry Sartain,
Yes.
Gary Farley.
Yes.
Renee Curtis.
Yes.
Patrick Hale. Zane Cantrell.
Yes. The next item we have is a request by David Blatzer, who is requesting a special exemption for the building a structure before the main home is built. What do you have on that, please?
Thank you. Application 2023-24 involves the location at 8550 Manus Road. It's a request for special exception approval for the establishment of an accessory structure before the principal structure for a property located in the RM zoning district. And this is the site in question. The applicant had erected a carport on the property, but had started constructing an addition to that structure towards the rear of the property, and he was notified by code enforcement that a permit would need to be obtained before he could continue construction. And Mr. Baltazar came into our office to find out how to obtain a zoning compliance, and because there is no principal residence on the property, he needs special exception approval for a storage structure, pardon me, on the property prior to the principal structure. So Mr. Baltazar would like to store his personal items as well as building materials. It's his intention to construct a home within 2 years. And we find that the request meets the criteria for special exception approval. However, if approved, he would need to obtain all permits, and that approval would be conditioned on continued compliance with the regulations for personal storage buildings, that the structure cannot be used for living quarters, commercial activities, or storage for businesses that occur off the property, including home-based businesses. We received a couple informational calls regarding this, but no one indicated any opposition to this request, and that concludes our presentation.
Question.
Sure we got a right survey there?
Got a question. The picture is somewhat different than that picture. I see the building toward the back that's in question. What are the buildings?
I believe those are like trailers. I don't think they're structures. It's just, this is the only permanent structure, and a permit was not obtained for that. Now, if he is approved and he obtains permits, he's only allowed to have one structure for personal storage, and he cannot have any outdoor storage.
Could you go back to the other pictures you had?
That one, or?
The first one you had that showed the bridge there.
Oh, okay. That was from Street View.
Yeah, it's a trailer.
Right.
So it looks like he's got parking storage there.
The site is out of compliance, and this is his first step to making it in compliance. Now, he understands that he's limited in what he can do with the structure once, if it gets approved and it's permitted and constructed. He will be.
Thank you.
Okay.
Do we have anyone here representing this request? If you'll come around, please. Give us your name and any additional information you want to share.
My name's Jose Arias.
My name is David Baltazar.
Do you have any questions, or I know y'all were asking about one of them is a storage, pretty much like a storage container, little 20-foot one, and the other one is just a trailer on wheels, 14-foot. It's the small
I got a
one.
picture here. It shows 4 of them. What are they?
Well, I think there's only 2. The rest could be either old wood or old material hanging around there. But there's only 2, right,
Yeah.
David? There's only 2 storages, yeah.
So are they, you have wheels on them, they movable, or are they just storage?
One has wheels,
Yeah,
right?
I have one trailer camper for that. I don't have a space in my house, but I have 11 acres. So I have a lot for my stuff.
Yeah, one of those could have been a camper that he was just storing out there, but he's moved those back to his permanent residence, his primary residence.
So there's nothing there now?
Well, there's the 2 storages, the one on wheels and then the other one, the 14-foot storage.
What are they used for?
Just to store building material and
For
stuff.
what?
For the home primarily.
Yeah.
Primarily just OSB, 2x4s.
Materials.
You
the
do,
only-
you
excuse-
do plan on building a home there, is that right?
So
And this structure would be related to that home, garage or something of that nature, is that correct?
Yes. So, kind of long story short, so he bought the property in question, and then the property next door became available, so he went and bought that one as well. So he's trying to, build a material to build a house on that, on that second property. Once he builds a house there, he'll live in there a couple years, sell it, and then build his, big dream home on the property in question. So that's kind of why he's trying to accumulate so much materials.
Nay, did you have a question?
Yeah, I do. So the storage of building supplies, is that restricted to just the home in question that you're going to build? What do you all do for a living?
It's primarily that.
Are
that
you in
material.
construction?
Yeah, he works
So
in
everything in
construction.
construction is going to be inside this 3,536 square foot shed?
Yes.
That's a lot of shed.
Yeah, but I have my trailer, my truck, my everything. I'm putting it on the inside.
Okay.
Yeah. Plus, I mean.
So it's going to be for business storage?
Yeah,
And-
but I'm working in construction.
Well, it's primarily for storage of his house.
That's a
'cause
lot of pots and pans. So,
I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the first plan that we got was originally, I think, 2,500 square feet for the first home. And the second home he's trying to build is, I think, 3,600, something like, I don't think we'd never submitted plans.
We're
to you, did
speaking
we?
about the building
Plans?
that you're
We
going to
didn't-
store
building
stuff in.
permits? No, okay. What was that?
The building that you're going to store things in. What goes in it?
The building material for the homes that were,
For this home or for whatever you're doing during the week?
no, for that home.
That home.
Okay.
or both the homes that we're planning on building on both those properties.
So does someone come to this property, say like on a Monday morning at 9 o'clock to pick up building materials to go to another job?
No, I mean, right now, they're out there moving material, but they're not necessarily, it's not a place where they're going every day or every, 3-4 days to pick up material, go and do such. Like, he's not necessarily moving material in and out of there on a
Okay.
weekly
And there's not going
basis.
to be a camper with someone residing in a camper in front of it or anything?
Wait a minute, Patrick, did you have?
Well, so is this currently a pole barn?
Right now, yes.
It is.
Yeah.
Okay. Is a permit needed for a pole barn in Rutherford County?
Yes.
Okay. Making sure.
Okay, I play on words, okay? You said not necessarily. That's not a definite no.
Not necessarily on what?
Moving stuff in and out for the business that he's
Oh,
contracted.
no.
I mean, well, what we're getting at is not like, he has his system set up around saying, all right, you're going to go pick up material this, every so often, but.
This is only used for the storage.
Okay, but the storage is going to be for the houses on those two lots right there, or is this a product going to be moved to other locations for your construction business? Okay, I want to make sure, because not necessarily, it's not a definite no to me. Okay.
Because, I mean, realistically, we pulled the septic permit, I think 2.5 years ago. I think it's expiring in December. So we're going to need to get that building permit pretty soon before the septic expires, so.
When do you plan on building your house there?
So we're planning on in 2 years, but like I said, kind of to avoid having to reapply for a septic permit, we're trying to get everything at least approved. And then down the line, we can either try to get an extension or just start building earlier and kind of delay it a little. Collect material.
Go ahead.
Is the building, is it enclosed? Is it going to be enclosed, or is it going to be just an open shed that you just pull things in?
No, I'm closed.
It is going to be enclosed?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. You may be seated. We'll open this for a public hearing. Anyone who would like to speak on this request? Public hearing. Close the public hearing. Entertain a motion on it.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion we approve it.
There's a motion to be approved. We have a second.
I'll second it.
Got a second? Thank you. Call a roll, please.
Mike Curtis,
No.
Amber Brown,
Yes.
Jerry Sartain,
Yes.
Gary Farley,
Yes.
Renee Curtis.
Yes.
Patrick Hale, Zane Cantrell.
Yes. The next item we have is a request for community assembly facility, special exemption. And what do you have on that, please?
Thank you. Application 2023-25 involves the location at 851 Baker Road. They're requesting special exception approval to allow the establishment of a community assembly facility with a maximum occupancy of 150 to 500 persons on the property located in the RM zone. And this is the site in question. It's a 24-acre site located along Baker Road, and they would like to utilize the site and construct a 6,000 square foot congregation building that can accommodate up to 298 church members. So that 298 falls within our medium community assembly category that requires special exception. So we have 3 levels of assembly uses. Up to 150, they could do it by right. They don't have to come in and ask for special exception. This is within the residential district. Between 150 and 500, they require special exception. And any community assembly that can accommodate 500 or more would have to be rezoned. And so they are wanting to move to the medium classification in order to serve 298 church members. In addition, they plan to establish 3 modular buildings, 24 by 60 for classrooms. So this is the site in question. We did not receive any calls regarding this request. Now, any improvements that are made will have to undergo site plan approval first. So the conversion of the existing structure into a non-residential use, any new structures, they will have to hire an engineer and supply a site plan that demonstrates meeting all of our development standards, and the Planning Commission would consider it before it could obtain any permits. So this is a concept plan that was provided by the applicant, and you can see that most of the improvements will take towards the back of the property. And if I hadn't already said it, we found that it met the criteria, and that concludes our presentation.
Tanya, the 298, depending on the square footage, the 300 mark, it falls out of your jurisdiction. How do we come up with a 298 to make sure that they are at 298? Is the plans, without plans right now, we don't know, right?
So I haven't seen a copy of a floor plan for the actual building itself, so the occupant load won't be calculated until that building is till they present that to us. If it exceeds the 300, as you know, the sprinkler, that's the sprinkler threshold, we will require that.
Well, and also the 300,
Will require State Fire Marshal's office.
It comes to my office.
Right. And we're aware of that, and we'll let them know that.
I don't want it to fall through the cracks for them. And that could, because once it does, you know what we're dealing with other things in Rutherford County together. That
we have advised them that the occupant load is actually calculated by the Building Codes Department based on the layout of the floor plan of the building.
Okay.
They know that.
All right, thank you.
Danielle, there is an existing structure that they're using now, and then they're going to build a new construction in addition? Because I feel like the aerial, I saw a home.
They really only identify it as an existing house on the site plan. The location of the proposed larger structure for the congregation is located to the south of the home, and then the 3 modular buildings for classroom space will be located on the other side. So the home will be located between those structures. And sometimes, and I'm not entirely sure, I may have missed it, they will have a home for the pastor of the church. So what, parsonage?
Do we have anyone here representing this? If you'll come around, please. Give us your name and any additional information about your assembly.
Sure. This is Angelos Faltas. I am the priest and pastoring the church that we're trying or hoping to start. And actually, just to introduce ourselves, because we look different. So we are from the Coptic Orthodox Church, and the Coptic Church means the Christians of Egypt. So basically, we are the Christians of Egypt, and we're a very ancient church named or known as the Church of Alexandria, one of the old or ancient churches. Was established in 64 AD by Saint Mark the Apostle. And actually, like, our community immigrated here looking for a better chance of life away from discrimination and persecution and abuse of right of worship, as it might be known to some. So basically, we're looking forward to have this place for assembly. and it's just a very simple building with 3 portable classes. They're going to be like deep inside the land, where like our building, the current building we're trying to start here or to build, is going to be 850 feet from Baker Road, and the same thing with the parking lot and the classes. And yeah, this is most of what I have for this presentation.
I'm Christine Eldahabi. I'm the architect of record on the project. So if there are any questions about the plans or anything, I'm happy to answer any of those.
I have one. Why 3 modular units and not one whole one for Sunday school or whatever, fellowship hall? Why separate them? I'm just being nosy.
Yeah, no worries. I think and maybe Father can add on to that, but he did find a good deal on 3 portables, and so he purchased them for a good price, and so we thought, why not have more and split those into separate classrooms. Yeah.
Gary? I've got a question. So, all right, I'm glad you're the architect.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, there's going to be 3 modular buildings to this. It's not going to be stick-built?
No, these are 3 modular buildings for classrooms, yes.
Okay.
And the larger building, the 60 by 100, is a pre-engineered metal building.
Okay. Please, work with her.
Yes.
Because I'm actually with the State Fire Marshal's office. Okay. And want to make sure it doesn't fall through the cracks and you all are doing something, and then at the end of the day, it causes you all problems. Want to get it right on the front end is where I'm heading with this. So modular buildings comes for the state. The locals doesn't have any authority on that. So work with us on that part. And it's possible that if it stays below the 300, it will stay here locally instead of coming to the State Fire Marshal's office.
Okay, absolutely.
So,
yes, I've been coordinating a little bit with Tanya, Josh Sanders, so I'm fully aware of the requirements, so we'll make sure we comply with everything.
I like giving that advice because
Yes.
I see what happens at the end of the day, at the end results, and it's a whole lot easier this way.
Absolutely, I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
No, thanks.
Thank you very much. I think we probably need more assembly hall in this county. But anyway, you have some members here. Let's recognize your members. We don't normally ask people to stand up, but you have some members here we'd like to just acknowledge that you're here. Thank you. We'll open this for a public hearing for anyone who'd like to speak on this request. Close the public hearing. Entertain a motion on it.
Move be approved, Mr.
Have a
Chairman.
motion be approved.
Second.
Have a second. Call the roll, please.
Mike Curtis.
Yes.
Amber Brown.
Yes.
Jerry Sartain.
Yes.
Gary Farley.
Yes.
Renee Curtis.
Yes.
Patrick Hale. Zane Cantrell.
Yes. The next item we have is a request by James Phillips, who is requesting a special exception for a major home business. And what do you have on that, please?
Thank you. Application 2023-26 involves the location at 8211 Mona Road, and it involves 2 parcels. It's a request for special exception approval for the establishment of a major home-based business involving the sale and installation of windows, doors, and trim upon a property located in the RM zone. And these are the parcels in question. The applicant has been operating for several years this business from his home site. It's a combined total 26 acres. This is the 18.6 acre site, and this is a 7.6 acre site. And if this request is approved, the applicant would be required to combine the 2 parcels so that both structures that are used in the business operations are on the same parcel as the home. So the proposed home-based business will be operated within 2 existing buildings, 40 by 84 and 7,497 square feet. There is no signage that will be proposed. The business days of operation will be Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., and the applicant has 5 employees that report to the site. They store on site a 124-foot box truck and 2 small pickup trucks. All vehicles will be stored inside or in the back of the structures. This request is the result of code enforcement. Once the applicant was notified, he immediately came into the office to apply for a home-based business. So this is the home in question, and you can see the structures located towards the back of the property and the surrounding area. It's across from a golf course. And this is from Connect Explorer, our pictometry, and these are the structures in question. So our aerials don't necessarily show it, but pictometry aerials do. And these structures, I believe, were built without a permit, and if approved, the applicant would have to obtain all permits for all unimproved work. Maybe portions of the structures used may have gotten a permit in the past, but it's been added on over the course of a few years, and so all new additions that were unpermitted would need to be inspected, permitted and inspected. The applicant indicated also that it's rare that they'll have customers report to the site. It's usually they'll go to the customer site. So it's anticipated that they'll meet that condition for customer-client visits. And so we did not, if we received any calls, it was one informational call, but that was it. No calls in favor or opposition. And we found that it meets some of the criteria. Obviously, the applicant is asking for the board to allow them to have 5 non-resident employees. The limits for major home-based businesses are 3, but the zoning ordinance gives the Board of Zoning Appeals power to exceed that number with its approval. And so that concludes my presentation.
Any questions on our staff on this?
I don't. We had a call from an anonymous caller that said there appeared to be a very active business running out of this property. So when we looked into it, that appeared to be the case. And the second building, the building to the south, did not have a permit. The original building to the north of it did, but the additions and stuff did not. We notified the owner, and he came right into, we gave him some direction on compliance.
All right, go ahead.
While Tanya's on here, I got another question for you. You said the brown roofed building to the upper part of the image that's on the screen here was not an approved, was not a permit?
That is residential, and that is not a part of this application.
Okay.
Just the 2 structures to the south with the white roof. The residential structure did have a permit.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, including the, what looks like deployed RV there?
Yeah, there's an RV being stored on property.
It looks like it's being used based on all the slide outs being out.
Now, a lot of times you leave those out just to air it out when you get back.
Clean it,
I mean,
or-
it
Okay.
doesn't
I'm just,
necessarily mean that
maybe it's
somebody
just a
lives in it.
bad day for the imagery.
Renee, did you?
No, I was just speaking on RVs. I don't own one, but I do know that they put them out to clean them, to air them out, and that kind of thing. It doesn't necessarily mean, unless you see an electric pole or something hooked to them, that somebody's living there.
And there are certain instances that in our zoning ordinance, it allows visitors to come and visit you and occupy an RV for 14 days out of the calendar year.
Do we have anyone here representing this request? If you'll come around, please. Your name and any information.
I'm James Phillips. I'm the homeowner and the owner of the business. We've been in business probably going on 14 years now. Started the business right at the end of the recession, kind of in some crappy jobs that had a lot of builders that wasn't paying me at the time on commission-based stuff, and got stuck with a lot of it. And so we started a business. I was in town for 2.5, almost 3 years. Good friend of mine, Prentice also owns Prentice Allsup Heating and Air. I rented a building from him when I started. Long story short, we pretty much outgrew the building. I had leased a building, Neil Sandler Body Shop. Well, I thought I'd leased it from late Bob Spivey. He was a friend of mine. But it turns out that I guess something happened, and that another agent had leased it before I got in there. So I had already unloaded 3 tractor trailers worth of trim and windows and stuff, and so I had to, they gave me a month to move out, and I had already, pulled an agricultural permit on my property. We farm. We had beef cattle at the time, and I just built my house, and me and my dad is Sheila Phillips Jr. We've been here our whole lives, and we decided that beef cattle wasn't making no money, and he said that I was making more money selling windows and trim than it would be worth it, so he ended up selling the cattle. But anyway, long story short, I'd already had the permit pulled for agricultural building, and I didn't have anywhere to go. I couldn't afford anything in Murfreesboro. It would probably put me under.
Are you currently putting together windows and doors at this site now and delivering?
No, we buy straight from the manufacturers, just like
So
Haynes
it comes
Brothers,
to
84 Lumber. Yeah.
Okay, is it delivered to your place?
Yes, we receive 2 trucks a week from Central Woodwork out of Nashville.
Okay. And then you take it out to wherever?
That is correct, yes.
It's custom-built stuff?
Yes, sir. We install some products. I have a crew that installs wire shelving, doorknobs. Most of my crew are never at the shop. It's just me and my wife and my son, and then my little brother runs the warehouse. But I was kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place, and it's how my family eats, and we ended up growing, and that's just I should have pulled a permit for the other buildings when I did it and done it right, but it was in a time crunch, and I just that building, the second building to the north there, and I didn't know, it's a pole barn. It was built by Summertown Metals. I didn't really know that since it had no electrical, no plumbing, nothing, no water, that I didn't know that, I really was supposed to pull. I thought it was just considered a storage building, but anyway, I'm here to make it right, and, I'll be glad to buy a building permit, and I could sign off saying that the county's not responsible for anything that they feel like I've done wrong, but,
You got any specials going on?
What? Yeah, I got plenty of them, yeah. I got a whole...
you can't get anything done now.
Can't get anything done. I will say this, we've been nominated several times for, Stones River Awards here in town. I've won first place several times. We're a great asset, in my opinion, to our community. My dad owns the 350 acres that surrounds me, which is also in my name. Whenever, he passes, it'll be mine. My best friend owns the golf course across the street. Everybody loves us. We've been there my whole life, and I don't ever plan on selling it.
Okay, we've got a question right here.
Just, can you walk through what activities are taking place in both of those buildings? Because I don't think it's been clear on that. I hear that there's some shipments coming, but then what else is going on?
Okay, well, we have a small office, me and my wife in the front. We have several employees that report in the morning, and then we load up various packages, window packages for new construction homes, or trim packages, and then they load them on the materials on the truck and take them to the job site. But as far as office, it's just me and my wife and my brother and my oldest son,
Okay, thank you. We got that information, you and your wife. Okay, you may be seated.
All right.
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Sorry.
So I guess I'll remind you a little bit that a home-based business is supposed to be not noticeable. So I'm looking at your outside storage and things like that. It's pretty, you got a pretty good operation there for just a little home-based wood shop.
Yeah, well, it's not we just unload and reload the stuff on the trucks.
I'll just remind you that while you're under this permit, that people ought to not be able to tell what you're doing.
Well, I mean, that's an aerial view. You got to say it's totally different in person. But I mean, I have a garden.
Jerry will be out there checking you.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, I'd be glad to.
Do you also do replacements on older homes?
We do. We have one crew that does just wood replacement, tearing out old wood windows, putting new windows in. But it's kind of one of those things where it's hard to find people who will show up to work and you can trust to. Nobody wants to work manually like that. I grew up working manually, and it's just a thing of the past, pretty much.
Thank you.
Thank you. You may be seated. We'll open this for a public hearing for anyone who'd like to speak on this request. Public hearing. Close the public hearing. We'll entertain a motion on this.
Move to be approved with staff recommendations.
Okay, we've got a motion to be approved. Got a second. Call the roll, please.
Mike Curtis.
Yes.
Amber Brown.
Yes.
Jerry Sartain.
Yes.
Gary Farley.
Yes.
Renee Curtis. Patrick Hill. Zane Cantrell.
Yes. That concludes our business. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you, board members, for your due diligence, and we are adjourned. Thank you.